When I first started out in the Airbnb business, I had a lot of doubts and a lot of questions. I wondered whether I could make a go of this, whether I could turn my home into an Airbnb business. I'm so glad I didn't listen to those doubts because I've now got a thriving business and it's been a wonderful journey and a great experience. There are 4 things that when I look back, they really could have stopped me from moving forward. I'm going to share them with you today. Don't let these 4 things stop you from being a great Airbnb host. The first one is your mindset. Mindset is 90% of everything we do. When I first started out, I didn't have the right mindset. I was just worried I would fail. And all that worry was only compounding the situation, and I just wasn't getting any bookings. It took nearly a month to get my first booking and I was panicking. It's all I kept thinking about. And as they say, where your attention goes is where the energy flows. Yes, things will go wrong, but don't dwell on what can go wrong. Only dwell on what is going to go right. Put your mindset where you want the energy to flow. That is into having a fantastic, thriving Airbnb. So if you really want to start an Airbnb business, you've got to have the right mindset. Don't let your only motivation for running an Airbnb be the money. You want to make sure that you're really looking forward to having guests, that you want to be in the service industry, that you're really enjoying seeing those happy, smiling guests and having those great reviews coming in. When you can start to visualize that, get that picture in your mind of your Airbnb running successfully, the bookings coming in, the guests having a wonderful time and sending you little messages and saying, oh, this is the best place I've ever stayed and I can't wait to tell my friends about it. And they leave you a great review. There is a famous guy called Neville Goddard who I quote a lot on my other YouTube channel, and he says we create what we believe to be true. He says that we can create the life that we want just by believing that it is already true. When we start to imagine and visualize that we already have what we want in our possession, and in this case it's a thriving Airbnb business with lots of happy guests, then we start to act and behave. We have a lifestyle that is in sync with what our vision is. Like they say, fake it till you make it. This is so true. It just means you have to believe that you are already in this position and start to live your life in that way. Start to smile. Wouldn't you feel happy if things were going well? Wouldn't it be brilliant when you see all that money come into the bank? Wouldn't it be great when you don't have any problems? Everything just runs smoothly. And just imagine that. Just create that vision in your brain and your subconscious will start to pick that up. That's how you will then live your life. You will be smiling. You will be happy. Yes, you'll be busy, but that's part of the job. And you'll be giving great service and you'll be having wonderful reviews come in. This is the kind of vision that you want to have. When you can visualize this, when you're feeling really happy about your Airbnb, that's the mindset that will then create the actual reality that you want. Your mindset is 90% of what you want. Remember that. So create the picture in your mind of what you want to see happening. A good idea is to actually write it down, to actually script it, to journal it. Another really good trick is to actually call a friend and tell them that, wow, you just got your first booking, or wow, your Airbnb is going so well and you're so excited. There's lots of money coming in. It's doing better than you ever expected. Everybody is super happy. Just by being in that mood, that upbeat vibration, that's what the universe is going to pick up on. That energy that you're putting out will then draw more of that energy back to you. It is the law of attraction, and that is what works. When you are worried, thinking you'll fail, or when you're needy of money, then you will only attract more of the same to you. So you've got to stop feeling need and lack. You've got to feel abundant and happy and excited and joyous. Everything is going well, and that's how you want to feel. So whatever it takes, you have to put yourself in that vibration. There's a great book that you should read, or a guy you should listen to on YouTube called Ken Honda, and he talks about happy money. Thinking about money as energy and thinking about money as happy, not worry. So when you get your head around that, then money will start to flow. We should always feel happy about money, because when we feel sad about money, it means that we haven't got enough of it. And that's all the universe is hearing. The universe is hearing, she hasn't got enough money, so don't give her any more money. But when I'm feeling I have plenty of money, I'm feeling rich, I'm feeling abundant, I have money coming into my bank account constantly, my wallet is overflowing with money, then things start to really go well. Money comes to you. Try it. Try some affirmations if you struggle with this. That's a really good thing to do, because affirmations will reprogram your subconscious mind, because many of us have unconscious thoughts that we carry around even from childhood, and they're stopping us from making money. And this is what this is all about. You want to make money from this Airbnb, but don't let it be your only focus. When you're enjoying your Airbnb, that is when the money will flow. I'd love to know in the comments below, are you already a host? Are you thinking about becoming an Airbnb host? And if so, what is stopping you? The second thing that nearly stopped me being an Airbnb host was the app. It was terrifying. There were so many levels to it, and I didn't even know how to get started, but it's actually not hard. The app leads you through everything. Just start by logging in, putting in a password, getting an account, and then they will lead you through what you need to do. There are also lots of questions about your Airbnb, so don't think it's overwhelming. Just one step at a time, fill everything out. Some big things that I had to decide about at the time were when to start. I set my Airbnb calendar to open up at Easter, and I think, as I said in another video, I stupidly opened it for 9 months in advance, which I definitely wouldn't recommend you do. Go back and watch my very first video on not to open your calendar too early. It is one of the mistakes I made, one of the don'ts, and I explain what to do and why. Get yourself verified and then start filling out the questions. How many guests will you allow? Do you allow pets? Do you allow children? What sort of cancellation policy will you have? Now, this is really important. If you're just starting out, you might want to have a flexible cancellation policy. I also had some really strict rules. Because I live in a really nice apartment building, there is nothing wrong with telling people how you want them to behave when they're in your apartment. Spell it out, because people don't actually mind. Have clear guidelines. So for me, it was no pets, no children, 2 people, no parties. Please be quiet because I have lovely neighbours. Please take your shoes off when you come into the apartment because I've just laid new carpet. I explained all this in my app, and I also gave them a really great picture of what my area looked like. Things like, is it walking distance to public transport? How far is it to the local supermarket? Are there any theatres, restaurants, museums, galleries? How far is it to the major city? Are there beaches around, parks around? Some people like to go to dog parks. Just put in there everything you can think about that might be of interest to somebody who was visiting your home for the first time. They've never been there before. They know nothing about the area. So just be as helpful as you can. Think of yourself as a tourist and just put everything in that you can. But as I said, don't let this stop you. Just start. Just put your name in there and start and log in and put a password in and off you go. And you will have an Airbnb business before you know it. Get your mindset right. Get that app open. Another thing that really worried me when I got started was, how am I going to price my Airbnb? And in the beginning, my girlfriend gave me her advice because she was doing it all herself. She was pretty old school, as I was. I have since learnt to be not so old school, and I now have a pricing tool, which I would highly recommend that you get. Beyond Pricing is the one I use. I've mentioned it in other videos. Oh my goodness, changed my life when it came to pricing, because trying to price every night yourself is just ridiculous. You just can't know every change of circumstance that is going to be happening in your area or around the hotels. The hotels in the area are no doubt using a pricing tool, and so are so many other Airbnbs. So you need to get on this. You need to have a pricing tool connected to your Airbnb so that they can price it for you. You can just go to sleep and know that if something happens out of the blue that you didn't know about, that Beyond Pricing is pricing it for you. They're changing the prices constantly. Every day will be different. You could never know yourself as well as they do. This is what Beyond Pricing will do. It's got an algorithm that is checking everybody's prices constantly in the area and making sure that you are priced to make money, because they won't want to see you busy all the time. As I realized, I was trying to book every night so that I stayed busy. It's better to actually only have, say, 5 nights out of 7 booked, but have higher prices so that you get a little bit of a break. You don't need to be busy 7 days of the week all the time. Beyond Pricing will make sure that they're pricing you so that you don't need to be. So trust the pricing tool. You can get a free trial. I've left a link for it below. If you do use the link, it is an affiliate link, just know that. But I would absolutely never run an Airbnb without a pricing tool, because it just takes the headache out of it. I worried so much about this, and it really nearly stopped me because I didn't know, what is my apartment worth? What will I price every night? So don't worry about that. Don't let this stop you. Just let a pricing tool do it for you. That's another thing to check off your list. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. This is a new channel, so I am trying to get it out there. Really helps the algorithm if you subscribe. Give it the thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Another thing that I really put a lot of time into thinking about was, should I have an Airbnb or should I just put a long-term tenant in my apartment? Now, my partner is in real estate, so his suggestion was, let's just put a long-term tenant in. You don't have to do all that work, all that cleaning, running an app, checking guests in and out, just so much less work. But I, for some reason, just kept thinking I could do this. I'd been in the hospitality business. I was actually excited about meeting guests and having my own little kind of hotel, and my own business. So this really excited me, and my girlfriend was very positive about it. As I said, she has run 2 Airbnbs, and that really motivated me. I could see it was working for her. She was making money, and she was loving it. She was really enjoying the business. So I thought, I can do this. So I progressed with my Airbnb. I also have knowledge of being a landlord, and in my experience, it doesn't always work very well. My ex-husband and I had a home that we rented out. It was a constant cause of conflict. It was a big home, so there were a lot of people sometimes coming in and out, animals, kids. Every time someone moved out, there'd be a renovation to do, like a full renovation. We would spend up to $10,000 just renovating, redoing the wooden floors, repainting. Tenants were constantly ringing with something, or they were late with their rent. It was always something. What I find overridingly is great about having an Airbnb is that I get to go into my apartment regularly, whether it be every week or maybe it's a month or sometimes it's 6 weeks, depending on how long someone stays for, and I get to re-clean my apartment and bring it back to the state that it was in, because people are not there for long enough to really do any major damage, because I have wonderful guests, and as I've talked about before, the guidelines are there, they know how to behave, and I leave it looking so nice that people often take care of it just the way I've left it. So that's lovely. I'm really lucky, and I hope that happens for you too. But what I've found that when you have a long-term tenant, they're living there. Fair enough. So they do more damage to your property. They're often in there for 6 to 12 months, and you will get your property back not looking like it did when you left it. All your things in your apartment or your home are going to get a lot more wear than they would if it was an Airbnb, because when people are on holidays, they're not necessarily cooking as much. They're not watching as much TV. They're not using the dishwasher as much, so they're not using your apartment as much as they would if they were living there, and that's why it gets so much more wear and tear. Walls get marked more. You can't say to long-term tenants, please take your shoes off every time you walk on the carpet, because they won't do that. Whereas your Airbnb guests, they will abide by the house rules because they want a good review from you. Long-term tenants don't care about reviews. They just pay their rent and they will look after the place minimally. They will not do any major damage, but you will not get it back the way you left it. I promise you, it will not look the same. So this is the biggest thing that I love about having an Airbnb, is that my apartment still looks the same pretty much as it did when I first rented it out 4 years ago. And I'm really happy about that. That makes me extremely happy, because this is an investment to me and I want it to be taken care of. So I'm always very grateful to my guests who take such good care of it. Unfortunately, here in Sydney now, we have new rules, and my property is what's called unhosted because I don't live on the premises. So I can only host my property now for 180 days of the year. The other 180 days, I will have to have a full-time tenant. So I do worry about that a bit, but that is the rule, and that's what we'll have to abide by. So I will only be doing it for the 6 months, and then I will be going back to Airbnb. Just remember, if you are in this situation in Sydney, that you will have to change your insurance over, because you can't use the same insurance policy if you have short-term tenants as opposed to being a landlord. You might want to think about charging a long-term tenant to use your electricity and Wi-Fi, so you don't have to cut it off and then reset it up again when you start your Airbnb again. Another one to really consider when you're renting a property, particularly here in Sydney, is that the tenant laws are constantly changing. As I said, my partner's in real estate and even he can't keep up with it. We're constantly having to check in to see what those rules are, because tenants can just pretty much up and leave with very little notice these days, and then you're left looking for another tenant. Whereas with Airbnb, they have insurance. They are there to back you up. You get paid the day after a person moves into your Airbnb. So you've already been paid up front for the whole stay, pretty much. So there are lots of reasons why I find Airbnb is safer and it pays better, that's for sure. So there are definitely pros and cons, but in my experience, from a money perspective, from taking care of your investment property, if you want to be a business owner, you want to be self-employed, you want to have a great little passive income coming in, then this is the way to go. Be an Airbnb host. I can help you further with everything we've talked about today. I've left a link below for personal coaching. There's a link to Beyond Pricing. There's a link to Airbnb just to get started. And I hope you set up a very successful Airbnb as I have. I'll see you in the next video.